Alrighty, this one's for you, Gemini. Greetings. Thank you for visiting Tarot Lumination. That's you. This is Tarot Lumination. This is your general kind of mini report, generic broad spectrum reading for you for June 2018. We're going to use this journey spread. Think of it as a journey, pulse by pulse of your heart, and the heart at the very core. You'll see in a little bit. This is sort of your month, Gemini. The sun is in Gemini. It's been in Gemini for a week or so before June, and you've got it for about 3 weeks in June, and then it flips into Cancer. And I was looking at the charts, and in some ways you're kind of lucky because there's a lot of very challenging energies out there, some very, very delicious supporting energies, and it's like you're kind of off the hook. There's nothing really, really, really pressing on you very, very hard right now. So you might be able to get through this month in a kind of a lighthearted, joyful manner, whereas some other signs it might be really challenged at the moment. Let me give you the notes. Hold on. Bear with me. These are just my personal notes. I've shared this with every other report, so I'll do it with you. It's for June 2018. It's just a list of calendar moments that I marked out, having checked out the whole month. And I've got, green for the good and red for alerts, okay? So let's just quickly the dates. Right at the beginning, very early, then we've got, these are the actual trigger dates. June 6th, June 10th, 14th, 15th, 19th, 23rd, and a cluster all the way through 29th up to the 30th, okay? We're doing it in a calendar month as opposed to an astrological month. So the things that are going on out there that are going out for everybody is the big fat water trine. This is a very harmonious triangle. It's called a grand trine, and it's between Pisces, Cancer, and Scorpio. It's for the whole planet, but for you, Gemini, none of that impacts you directly. There's no Sagittarius here. There's no Gemini here. Now, also, at the same time, we've got this big Cancer-Capricorn opposition going on, and that comes in a little bit later. So all this juicy supportive energy here is amplified. You can make the best of it. You can learn a lot through significant relationship dynamics wherever these aspects lie in your personal chart. That's the key. Okay, that's the key to understand. This isn't directly about Gemini, but this energy is here anyway. And it's pretty much there for the whole month, on and off, more or less a few degrees here and there. Now, later in the month, like starting or especially around, well, actually, let me point this out, specifically around June 6th, there are some hard squares. These are challenging energies between Pisces and Gemini, and that's between Neptune in Pisces and the sun in Gemini. So whether you're sun, moon, or rising, okay, think of yourself as a Gemini. Around the 6th, there can be some very challenging energies for you, and I think the moon goes through Pisces at that time as well. Don't quote me, though. So you might want to pay attention around June the 6th. The next thing is we've got these big T-squares going on between Aquarius, Leo, and Taurus, and Aquarius, Leo, and Scorpio, okay? Kind of on and off throughout the whole month. So I've marked these as red alert periods. It's very challenging energy for all of us. Again, it doesn't hit you directly. It's going to affect the Aquarians, the Taurians, the Leos, and the Scorpios more than anything. Same thing with this big fat water trine here. It's going to affect the Pisces, Cancer, and Scorpio people more than anything, and secondarily, the Capricorn and Cancer people. So none of that really affects you directly. The thing is that the sun, which kind of rules everything, is out there, and that's your energy. So in some ways, it's just like you get a free pass. You get to surf through the waves. If you want to, you can get involved in this stuff. You can really get stuck into it. If you want to come to Tarot Illumination, really get stuck in, we can do that, okay? It's heavy duty stuff, but otherwise you can maybe just enjoy the month for what it is, okay? The energy changes a lot at the very end of the month. It's still very choppy, but the sun moves into Cancer. which would be your second house of value and values, wealth and money and finance, gifts and talents. Okay, let's just get into it, okay? I'm sorry, I got a little carried away there. All the reports this month, or the general reports, have been preceded by this little astrobabble stuff that I've been doing. I know some of you want to just dive straight into the cards, and I understand that, but I use so much astrology for myself in my own world, and I feel like sometimes I need to share this with you. It's not fair. If I don't, let's put it that way. I feel like I am underserving you if I don't share that. So same routine like you do with all the other reports. Watch for your sun, moon, and rising, especially if they're all different, and reinterpret everything to suit yourself. Okay, it's your reading. This is for you. I'm just seeing this. When I do this, I kind of get very tripped out, and it feels like I'm watching a movie, and I'm trying to give you the commentary as we go along. Okay, so please allow for that. Please give Tarot Illumination a very wide berth. Allow for a lot of wiggle room. Okay, that's all I'm asking. Thank you, dear Gemini. All right. So let's see what happens. Cards are well shuffled in advance, but I'd like to go to the last second so that you're a witness. Here we go. Okay, all right. I'm trying to do a very big, fat, wide, extreme cut so the deck is really clear. All right, here we go. Bring your team in, okay, Gemini? Team Gemini, your spirit guides and all that. We do that over here at Tarot Illumination. Let's make it a team effort. Okay. Here is you at the core. This is the heart of you. The heart knows what it wants, knows what it needs, and it's hoping, it's praying, it's asking that you, dear Gemini, in your egoic 3D self are listening. Okay? It's really important to keep the heart in alignment with the self. Bring the ego, bring the self into alignment with the heart. One of the core themes at Tarot Illumination is love thyself. You've probably figured that out by now. It's all about the healing power of love here. So what's going on here at the core? What is it that your heart needs? What is it that your heart wants? What is it calling out for? Let's have a look. What are you bringing in with you? What are your stresses? Pretend you're at a meeting here with Tarot Illumination. What's on your mind? What are your issues? What are your challenges? What are your stresses? What are your glories? Like, just put it on the table. Let's have a look. All right, over here, this is the energy of the ever-present now. This is where things can get a little awkward because a lot of people don't like to be here because it means you have to be very grounded, present, conscious here, like totally in the zone where nothing else matters. There's no past, there's no future, there's only now. Sometimes people struggle with that because it's so much easier to be and allow ourselves to be consumed with obligations, commitments, activities, distractions, chores, whatever it is, like chasing the highs of life, fighting the lows of life. And instead, you could just simply be here right now, like, what's happening right now? Do I feel like absolute piece of doo-doo? Do I feel awesome, or a mixture of both? What is it? And then just sit with that. And then some people go, no, I can't handle that. No. Let's go back to what we know, or let's project into the future. Anything to avoid this. Anything. Okay. So let's have a look, because it's here in the now, in the present, where you own your power. And your power can be most effectively expressed through the healing phenomenon of your decisions. It's a gift. It's an amazing capacity, opportunity that we have as human beings, conscious decision making, where we can override our limbic behaviors, our limbic programming, our conditioning from youth, our oppressive energies from outside. You can take a stand. You can say, you know what? I'm going to make a decision to love myself first. Thank you very much. No apologies. Excuse me. You can do that. You have the right and almost an obligation and a duty to do that and be that. Okay, Gemini? Over here. So how do you do that? Once you understand what we're talking about here, how do you effectively love yourself and make the decisions to do that in a way that actually works? Okay, so that you can generate consequences, which is the symbol, the symbolization that you are the owner of your life, as opposed to everything out there being the owner of you. Who wants that? Who needs that? Maybe you're a debt slave. Maybe you're a mortgage slave. Maybe you're a credit card slave. Maybe you're a college debt slave. Whatever it is, who needs that stuff? Who actually wants it? We've taken it on without knowing what it actually implies. But now we've got it. We own it, and so sometimes we can realize we created our own shackles. Oh no! That's what happens when you outsource your life instead of taking ownership of your life. It's very beautiful, subtle things that go on here. Okay, so what happens, let's say you're in the zone and you get what we're talking about here, and you think, oh, okay, I get it. I need to take full power, full control, full ownership, and I need to make my own decisions that work for me, loving myself first. Anything and everything else that isn't that needs to go. So let's say you're having a really rough day and it's not happening and you are wigging out, you're doing everything you can to avoid the present, avoid the now. What does that look like? What are you losing? How are you losing? Oh, on the other hand, let's say you're in the zone. What does that look like? Okay. Over here, let's have a look at prospects and momentum for the next beat of the heart. Can you see that this is the heart? Think of this as like an aura. Think of this as your aura, and it comes from the core of you. The heart has a very powerful aura when it's healthy, and it permeates everything. In a really, really loving being, the heart energy dominates. Okay, we're all, a lot of us, programmed to be very cerebral, where our, our head dominates. But that couldn't happen without the heart. Get it? Okay. So anyway, I'm not trying to scare you here. I'm just trying to give you the tarot illumination perspectives. Okay, over here, we're going to start. Let's have a look. This is circumstantial energy that's around you. And you, Gemini, like the rest of us, are going to have to make the best of it. All right, we've got the Strength card. So to me, this is an indication that this is really sweet weather. This is really good weather for you to realize how, it can be very, very satisfying when you graciously allow the egoic self to surrender to the higher self. Okay? I know that sounds completely counterintuitive. Shouldn't we be nurturing your most awesome self? Sure, of course. But there's ways to do that that have greater value over the long term. Because a lot of the three-dimensional things that we do or think that we are required to have and be in order to be fulfilled and evolved and happy are things that we can't take with us in the great beyond. The things that exist in the great beyond, in the 5D and the 7D, can be infinitely more satisfying than anything we can have here on Earth that would constitute stuff that you have to get, that you have to have. So my feeling here is that the weather, the circumstantial energy, is very, very conducive for you to take advantage of your, let's say, freedom of movement through this month here, where you can be very, very aware of the gorgeous energies here. You can be very aware of the very challenging energies here. Allow for that and navigate your way through the month, realizing how incredibly fortunate you are to have the ability, to have the chance to get this through this month without taking a lot of direct hits, okay? So in a way, you're kind of lucky. I see you lucky. It gives you a chance to really kind of get on your spiritual path here and move beyond the 3D egoic self and get in tune with spirit and heart and love over here. Let's have a look. What's coming out? What's over here? Okay, well, with the Six of Wands here, my feeling is the heart needs what it needs. The heart wants what it wants. It has to be nurtured. Are you actually doing that? And in some ways, I feel that you are, because the sun is right here in Gemini right now anyway. So it's an indication that your heart, at least to, at least for the time being, is saying, well done, Gemini. At least to some extent, you've been listening. You have acknowledged me. You understand my needs. You understand my wants. And I'm very, very glad and I'm going to celebrate the victory. I am going to enjoy what it is like to be loved and nurtured and appreciated by you. In other words, I'm letting you know, dear Gemini, that you have done a very good job because I am thriving at this moment and I am appreciated by you, and I know that you have been appreciating me. So that equals victory. Thank you very much. Okay, we're just going to enjoy our moment in the spotlight here, all right? Thank you very much. So what are you bringing in with you? Legacy energy. Let's have a look. Okay, again, a toast to you, Gemini. This is an indication to me that whether you know it or not, you might have been like spending time with the right people in the right places for the right reasons, um, for the right outcomes. And that's all about love, breeding love. Love breeds love. In other words, you've been surrounding yourself with loving people, and you have been very loving with the people who you bring into your surroundings. And that feeds on itself. Okay, so I feel that that is very, very good news. To me, it looks like pretend you're coming into a meeting here with Terra Illumination, and we're just hanging out, and we're booked, and it's your moment, and it's just like, okay, I'm Terra Illumination. Thank you for very much for being here. This is a team thing, and you're a Gemini. Cool, nice to meet you. What's going on? And you say, well, you tell me. And so I'm saying, okay, well, let's just have a look. Uh, put it all on the desk. Put it. What have you got on the table? And what I'm seeing is that this is good news. It looks to me that you've come in here having done a lot of good work on yourself already. I think you might have learned that over the last few years because of Saturn in Sagittarius in hard opposition to you for years, making you very deeply, acutely aware of what happens in love and loving relationships. And you come out the other side with a much greater wisdom and understanding and knowledge. And you've learned a lot. Saturn, the great teacher, you've learned a lot. And it's still ongoing, but it puts you in a position now where you have the capacity to share your love and resources with others, and others appreciate that. They celebrate you. This is more victory on top of victory. This is win-win here. So that's very, very good news. Now the question is, what are we going to do with all this? Let's say, pretend you're an artist, okay? Pretend you're like some famous, artist from the Renaissance or something, or one of the Van Goghs or something not so tragic. Somebody who's like had a very beautiful life, and they're in the zone. They love doing their art, and they don't exist as an ego. They just are dissolved into their present, their moment, their craft, their skills, their ways of being. Okay, well, with the Devil card here, my feeling is that although we've come up to a very good start here from my perspective, and okay, I'm going to go back to this. It's like, this is going to sound really funny, Gemini. Well, not funny, but maybe peculiar. It's like you're coming into a meeting and everything's jolly and everything's buoyant, and we're looking at each other, and I have a duty, a kind of responsibility here, because you wouldn't be here unless there were issues that need to be addressed, okay? Nobody bothers with a tarot illumination reading or even a tarot reading unless they have issues deep, deep, deep down that need to be addressed, that have not been addressed by friends, family, lovers, relationships, money, careers, doctors, scientists, therapists, or anything. And they end up at tarot illumination. So there you go. So let's pretend I'm making notes. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, tell me your story, Gemini. Oh, yeah, that's cool. Very cool. And we got all this going on. It's been very loving. I'm very loving. I'm very loved. And I just want to let you know. And I've been nurturing my heart, and my heart gets it, and I get my heart, and that's great. And I'm saying, okay, Gemini, that's great. So let's get down to the problem. What's the problem? right here, right now, what is your problem? And then you kind of like, you lose all your buoyancy, like all the bubbles have gone from your champagne. And then it's like Terra Illumination is hanging out with you, looking at you. And come on, just say it, Jim. And I like, well, like, okay, if I'm honest, if I admit it, I got some very serious issues. I'm very trapped. I'm very bound. Part of me is like a self-medicator. Part of me is doing anything and everything I can to make sure I'm happy all the time because I don't like being down. I like to feel good. I like to be happy, and I do what I have to do. If it means I need 3 espressos in the morning, that's what I do. If it means I need to be at happy hour the minute it opens, that's what I do. If it means that I need extra, let's say, extracurricular, extra, whatever they call it, what's that word? Um, Carnal engagements, then to keep happy. In other words, I need to score. I like to score. I like to get laid. I like other people chasing me. I like to chase other people. And I'm here as Terra Illumination is kind of going, okay, let's just admit it, Gemini. You're hooked. You got some serious addictions. You got some serious issues that are binding. Yes, this is all great, but now you're here. Let's admit it. You wouldn't be here unless you had issues. And the issues are that you're very deeply bound, very deeply entwined. You might be a heavy duty self medicator. You might be a highly evolved, highly sophisticated self medicator. And that becomes very binding. You might think, I have to go to my yoga tonight. I got to go to the gym Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. And then I got to do my meditation, mindfulness practices on Sunday, every Sunday without fail. And then, because it's too much pressure, I'm just going to get smashed and wasted. I'm going to go get my medical herbal stuff, and I'm going to get blasted, but I'm not going to tell anybody. And then I'm going to find a way to get over my addiction. I'm going to go to AA, and then I'm going to do all of that stuff. Can you see where we're going here, Gemini? It's just like, in other words, you are a prisoner of your own device. And that becomes a serious problem. It's almost like you're into, like, it's okay here. You're with Terra Illumination. It's okay for this stuff to come out. This is what we do here. But you might not want to admit it. That's the problem. Nobody wants to admit that they are the cause of their own undoing and that they're deeply, deeply enmeshed in it. And it's very, very hard to undo themselves from their vices, especially if it's self-medication of any kind. Like, maybe you're a caffeine addict. Maybe you like your energy drinks and you can't function without them. Do you know what it's like to be near somebody who is, they live off caffeine and energy drinks and everything like that, and then you remove that stuff from that person's life? You don't want to be near them because they go ballistic. They become the worst person you would ever want to know. And I think that's kind of what we're dealing with here, Gemini. We're dealing with the serious reality checks. So what are we going to do in the present, in the now, if we're honest and admit kind of what's actually happening here? You can make decisions. You can liberate yourself from all this, but it requires a decision to do so. Okay, and this takes a lot of courage. This is going to require going deep down into the very core of you and figuring out, who actually am I? What have I really got? What are my missions, my goals, my dreams, my passions, desires about what I want to be and how I want to do? Instead of doing all this like reflex behavior, like faking it, or like going through the motions as if everything is wonderful, and you're telling yourself, and your heart is sort of going along with you. Yes, there is something good happening here, but we're going deep down here at Terra Illumination. Deep, 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 okay? And what I'm feeling here is that in order to love thyself, make conscious decisions to do that, it's like it's time to wrestle this monster, okay? Where the egoic self is now almost like in a face to face with your spirit self face to face with the ego, and you know full well where it's all heading here. You know that when you're at Terra Illumination, it's all about the love and the healing and the spiritual advancement, the spiritual healing from the inside out. So that's going to take great courage. You have to tap in to the courage to keep this thing going, whatever you've done in the past that actually does work, and whatever is it being exposed right now in the here and now that is exactly contrary to all of that. We need to deal with that. We need to face that, and it takes a lot of courage to do that. And the Queen of Wands has that courage. So you've already got this inside of you. The question is, do you want to access this? Because when you access this energy and make the decisions from this perspective, it means that you're going to have to face down this aspect of yourself, which you might not want to do, because you might have orchestrated and crafted this way of being with all the best of intentions, and you don't want to deal with it. Imagine looking in the mirror and saying, "Oh my God, I have to go through all the withdrawal symptoms now from being a caffeine addict, or an addict for this, or bound up to this, relationships, or whatever it is, where you're hooked as some kind of stabilizing thing to give you the feeling that you're still okay when you're not." Okay, so how do we do this? How do you get into your courage? How do you stay there so love thyself becomes your motto? It's going to be tough because this is a lot to handle. Okay, well, to me, it feels like there's a lot of fake it till you make it here. Because if you have been faking things to yourself for quite a while, and we're only just now admitting it here, like it's almost like Terra Illumination. I don't really like to talk about this with anybody, but I admit it, I do have some serious issues. And it's just like, please don't tell anybody. I don't want anybody to know. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? How are we going to get out of this? And then Terra Illumination says, well, tap into your courage, walk away, at least just try a tiny, tiny little bit. Try for one day, taking your triple shot espresso and chopping that down to just 2. Okay? Then do that for a month. Okay? And then the next step is walk away further. Remove yourself from this, which is very, very unloving, which is ultimately very self-destructive. And then take it down to 1 shot of espresso. And then you say, like, oh no, I don't know if I can handle it. How am I going to cope with my day job? How am I going to pay off my bills? How am I going to cover my college debt? How am I going to look cool and feel smart if I don't have my triple shot espresso? And then Terra Illumination says, you can handle it. You'll be just fine. You just have to very gently, gently prize yourself away from the addiction. Fake it till you make it. And one of the secrets is you can get a decaf espresso, okay? You don't have to tell anybody that you're wimping out. You can still have your cool shots. You can still do your electric cigarettes. You can still do your indulgences, whatever they are. But you can like reduce, and use these self-loving strategies to get away from the hard stuff and get back to something simple. Imagine that, non-alcoholic beer. Imagine, instead of having herbal medications or whatever your indulgences or trappings might be, just, I'm not saying just go out and live off rice cakes. I mean, that's just stupid. That's not going to work, obviously. That's the opposite of self-love. I know some people do it, but I can't do it. I'm not going to even suggest that. But all I'm suggesting here, in order for this to work, in order for this to, let's say, check yourself into AA, or check yourself into a self-realization place or something where you admit the challenges, you admit the deep bindings and the things that you are doing. And that becomes a process, and that's an act of self-love, okay? Let's have a look over here. Consequently, you learn how to become your own best advisor. It's almost like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. I see what you're talking about, Terra Illumination. And all I'm saying is that pretend that this is Terra Illumination who just arrived, and this is what you have manifested. This is a consequence of what happens when you come to a Terra Illumination reading. You find Terra Illumination is there for you, and I'm calling out the truth here. Let's say that like the Terra Illumination team people are here for you, and it's saying this is how it's supposed to be. Please don't take this personally. We are here for you. This is like being, what do they call it, your sponsor, your mentor, or something like that. And you can become that person to yourself. Once you learn the tricks here, it's almost something that you can, where you can achieve self-mastery, where you can achieve clarity of mind, clarity of truth to yourself, and become your own subjective truth, where your own subjective truth is very closely aligned with universal truths, and it's not a false truth. So that's kind of what I feel is happening here. And you're in a situation, it looks to me like one of the acts of self-love here is to be willing to get feedback from someone that you trust, people that you trust, who have no concern, no agenda for themselves. They are just there to serve. Like it's their day job is to be an advisor or a counselor or something like that, that in a way that's very, very good for you. So you can invite that into your life. And eventually you can like almost be that way for others too, but most especially for yourself. What happens if you're screwing up, you lose the courage, and you just decide to stay? I can't hack it. I can't. I need 4 espressos. And by the time it gets to 7 o'clock, I'm going to do a triple shot of my favorite vodka. There you go. Self-medication in the extremes. And you know how to do that. You might be an expert. What happens if you mess up? What happens when you mess up is that you realize there's a huge amount of cleanup campaign to do, and it just gets worse and worse and worse every day that you don't take care of this stuff. However, when you're in the zone, you tap into your courage, you consciously, deliberately, forcefully use your energy to love thyself first. Reward yourself in the way that you've already done so well so far, but we're taking this to next level. This is next level healing. When you do that, and even if you need professional help, you do that, and you realize, okay, well, it's just repairs and maintenance. We can do that. We still have all our gifts and assets and values and talents here. That's not gone, but there's just a lot of obstruction with weeds, vines, overgrowth, anything that's obstructing the value and gifts that you have. So don't worry. It's not the end of the world here, okay, Gemini? Prospects. Okay. My feeling here is that once we're honest with ourselves, then the courage breeds more courage. But the thing is that it looks to me like these are very long-term, deeply buried issues, and we're going to have to accept that there's a long-term cleanup campaign here going on. And I don't know how long that is. I'm not going to get into it here. This is just a short reading. We're already over time, so to speak. But what my feeling is what's going to happen here is the more that you dig into this, the more you're going to realize how completely at the mercy you have made yourself to your own bindings, your own strategies of what I would call very high-end self-medication strategies to avoid the evolutionary growth, in other words, to avoid the spiritual health and evolution that you know you have to face. It's just that it's a lot of work, and it's going to continue to be a lot of work, and it's going to come to the point where, if we're honest, you can't self-medicate your way out of this. The only way you can understand it is to understand that as soon as you resolve one issue, and another issue is going to come up that's going to need resolution too. So this is like an ongoing thing here. You're not going to fix this thing overnight. This is not going to be fixed overnight. This is a long-term strategy going forward here, where as soon as you've picked off one issue, the next one's going to come up at you, and then the next one's going to come up at you, and you will have the courage, you will endure, but you have to understand that there's probably a lot of stuff very, very deeply buried, and it's time now to deal with it. Issues that need to be healed, You've got to reveal it to heal it. The more you resist the need for healing, the more the need for healing persists, okay? So we're going to get on this, all right, Gemini? We can do this. It's a team effort, all right? You can handle it. You have the strength and the power. You have the inspiration. Bye-bye.